What does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. No, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on.
The boxing world is buzzing once again. This time over a matchup that few expected to see, Jake Paul versus Gervonta "Tank" Davis. On one side stands Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned fighter who's made headlines with every punch he throws. On the other is Gervonta Davis, a proven world champion with knockout power and years of elite-level experience. Fans and analysts everywhere are split. Some call it a circus. Others say it's a bold experiment. But no one can deny it has captured everyone's attention.
And truly, when people run back this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer. And I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he going to outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global. For you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, you know, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know.
Boxing pros are quick to point out that Jake Paul faces a mountain he may not be able to climb. Fighters like Shakur Stevenson believe that despite Jake's large frame and physical strength, it won't be enough to overcome Davis's skill and experience. Shakur explains that Tank's timing, defense, and ring intelligence will allow him to dominate the fight from start to finish. He predicts Davis will stay patient, outbox Jake with sharp precision, and win by decision rather than knockout. Not because he can't knock Jake out, but because Jake's sheer size might make it unnecessary. Analysts like Showbiz the Adult remind fans that Tank Davis has already dealt with taller and bigger opponents. He recalls how Davis handled Ryan Garcia, a fighter who was not only taller but also faster and more explosive, and still found a way to win decisively. Showbiz argues that if Tank could close the distance against a skilled, experienced boxer like Ryan, then Jake Paul, with his limited experience, will be no different. He insists that boxing isn't about size, it's about timing, distance control, and ring IQ. And in all those areas, Tank is a master.
On the fight. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continued to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch.
Former world champion Chris Algieri takes a broader view of the matchup. He praises Gervonta Davis not just for his talent, but for his ability to draw massive attention every time he fights. Algieri says boxing today isn't only about skill, it's about who can bring energy back to the sport. Tank has become a symbol of that revival, filling arenas and uniting hardcore fans with casual viewers. Interestingly, Algieri gives Jake Paul some credit too. He admits Jake might not have Tank's technical skill, but his rise has also brought a new audience into boxing. People who never watched the sport before. In Algieri's eyes, both men, in very different ways, have helped make boxing exciting again.
Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight and be like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fight. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying...
But not everyone views Jake Paul's success as a win for boxing. Controversial commentator Charleston White dismisses Jake's career as nothing more than entertainment disguised as sport. According to him, Jake's fights have never felt like genuine professional bouts. They're exhibitions crafted for clicks and pay-per-view sales. Charleston believes Jake hasn't yet faced a true elite boxer who can test his endurance and skill. If he ever steps in the ring with someone like Gervonta Davis, Charleston says, the difference will be exposed immediately. Davis's years of experience, reflexes, and ring IQ would show Jake just how far he still has to go. In Charleston's words, popularity can sell fights, but it doesn't build legends. Real fights do.
First off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul's show there, because that's all for entertainment. What is it? For entertainment purposes only, right? It's just say like somewhere in the small print of the promotion for entertainment. Don't do this at home, kids. So fine.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer for entertainment purposes only. So it's money making purposes only.
Whether this fight becomes a showcase of size or a masterclass in technique, one thing is certain: the world will be watching.